This is CBN NewsWatch.
And thank you so much for joining us on this first day of the week. It is Monday, July 26th. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, return of the mask mandates. The debate is on the rise as the number of COVID cases is going up among unvaccinated people. Another possibility, booster shots. We're going to bring you a look at the options under discussion. Is it censorship or looking out for your public health? The firestorm over the White House's move to work with Facebook on clamping down on misinformation on COVID. But others say it's Big Brother in action and intimidation by the government. The Olympics are underway in Tokyo, but human rights activists are already concerned about the next games, the Winter Olympics in Beijing in just 6 months. And those activists are calling for an international boycott. We'll tell you why. And here at home, a hero's welcome for the team that cleared out the debris from the collapse of the condominium building in Florida. All those stories and more are ahead in this edition of CBN NewsWatch. We want to begin this half hour with this: the concerns over a spike in new COVID cases. It now has the Centers for Disease Control considering new mask mandates and wondering if the vaccines that have already been given will protect against the Delta variant. Dale Hurd is on the story.
With daily COVID infections in the U.S. reportedly up more than 300% since mid-June, there's new evidence the vaccine may not protect as well as some have claimed they would. The CEO for a company that helped develop the Pfizer vaccine has told the Wall Street Journal that antibody levels are dropping 7 months after immunization among some vaccine recipients. Dr. Anthony Fauci told CNN a booster shot may be needed for people with weaker immune systems.
Those are the kind of individuals that if there's going to be a third boost, which might likely happen, will be among first the vulnerable.
The former head of the FDA, Scott Gottlieb, blasted the Centers for Disease Control's latest attempt at modeling the trajectory of the COVID-19 Delta variant, basically saying the CDC doesn't know what it's doing, and said even the vaccinated should now wear masks.
Whether you're vaccinated or unvaccinated, if you want to add an additional measure of protection, if you're in a high prevalence environment where there's a lot of infection, a mask can still be helpful against this new variant.
With only 49% of the population fully vaccinated, Republican leaders like Mitch McConnell and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis are urging Americans to get vaccinated. Health officials claim the vast number of new infections are among the unvaccinated. But DeSantis says badgering and fear-mongering by the government will never persuade some to get the jab.
You're in a situation now where a lot of the folks who are not taking it, it's accessible to everyone, they have different reasons for why they don't take it. And I think that the more they're hectored by government officials or some of these folks, that is not going to get them to yes. I can tell you that right now.
And while vaccinations are reported to be up over the weekend, health officials remain worried, with Dr. Anthony Fauci saying we're going in the wrong direction. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Just as President Biden has hit 6 months in office, optimism about the direction of the country has collapsed. According to a poll from ABC News and Ipsos, a majority of the public, 55%, now say they are pessimistic about the direction of the country. That's way up from 36% in the same poll back on May 2nd. And now, less than half, only 45%, are optimistic about the outlook for the U.S., far below the 64% in the poll back in May. ABC News reports the decline in the optimism has taken place across the board among Democrats, Republicans, and independents. It also comes as President Biden's approval rating has fallen. The big debate is underway. Is it censorship or looking out for public health? With vaccination rates slowing down, the White House is pointing the finger at social media, especially Facebook. The president even said Facebook is killing people before backing off. The administration is pushing the platform to clamp down on what it considers misinformation about COVID. But some critics say the White House is crossing the line and limiting free speech. Here's CBN's White House correspondent, Phillips, with more.
To be clear, the White House has not demanded Facebook or any other social media platform to do anything, although it has made specific recommendations. Some say no matter how it's done, a White House recommendation can come off as a mandate, and in this case, one that could stymie free expression. A few words as the president left the White House touched off a firestorm.
What's your message to platforms like Facebook? They're killing people. I mean, it really, look, the only pandemic we have is among the unvaccinated. And they're killing people.
Critics said the president was vilifying social media and Facebook in particular, that his administration is bullying them and attempting to interfere with free speech. Biden clarified Monday.
My hope is that Facebook, instead of taking it personally that somehow I'm saying Facebook is killing people, that they would do something about the misinformation, the outrageous misinformation about the vaccine.
Amidst stagnant vaccination rates, the administration is going on the offensive against what they consider COVID misinformation.
I issued a Surgeon General's advisory on the dangers of health misinformation.
A rare move reserved for urgent public health threats.
Modern technology companies have enabled misinformation to poison our information environment with little accountability to their users.
We're flagging problematic posts for Facebook that spread disinformation.
The White House making a number of asks of Facebook, including that the platform disclose the reach of COVID-19 misinformation to the public, that it creates an enforcement strategy across all of its companies, that it removes misinformation quicker, and that the platform promotes quality COVID information in its algorithms. Psaki points to the so-called disinformation dozen, 12 people believed to be responsible for 73% of all anti-vaccine content on social media.
All of them remain active on Facebook, despite some even being banned on other platforms, including Facebook, ones that Facebook owns.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. You know, you can't get these platforms, you can't urge these platforms to rein in speech.
John Schweppe is the Director of Policy and Government Affairs at the American Principles Project.
We have a long tradition in this country of respecting free speech and free expression, even when it's ugly, even when it's frustrating. When they put this pressure on these private companies to censor and to remove content, it's definitely a question mark when it comes to the First Amendment. It kind of comes across as, hey, that's a nice company you got there. It would be a shame if something happened to it. I mean, it is a threat.
For its part, Facebook defended itself against the administration's accusations with this blog, which says in part, since the beginning of the pandemic, we have removed over 18 million instances of COVID-19 misinformation. We have also labeled and reduced the visibility of more than 167 million pieces of COVID-19 content debunked by our network of fact-checking partners. But the White House remains dogmatic.
Concern, though, I think for a lot of people on Facebook is that now this is Big Brother watching you.
They're more concerned about that than people dying across the country because of a pandemic where misinformation is traveling on social media platforms. That feels unlikely to me. If you have the data to back that up, I'm happy to discuss it.
Conservatives are rallying together against what they see as a threat to free speech coming from the White House. The Media Research Center is circulating a letter that they're asking people to sign, urging the Biden administration to change its course of action. In Washington, Eric Phillips, CBN News.
Israeli warplanes struck a target in southern Gaza. The Israeli military announced that earlier today, saying it was responding to the launches of incendiary balloons that caused at least 3 blazes in southern Israel. The military said it had struck a Hamas military base. It said the base was near civilian areas that included a school, but gave no further details. There were no immediate reports of casualties. The airstrike came several hours after the incendiary balloons were launched into Israel by activists linked to the terrorist group Hamas, which Gaza rules. Here's a look at some other stories beyond the headlines for you at this hour. Chinese Communist Party officials reportedly raided a virtual church service that was meeting online over Zoom. International Christian Concern reports authorities forced the pastor and an elder with the Shenzhen Trinity Gospel Church to stop preaching earlier in July, as other Chinese Communist Party officials closed on the church building. A pastor in India and his family were forced to flee their village last month after police detained and beat him for sharing his Christian faith. Morning Star News reports that while he was in custody, police tortured and threatened him. And here at home, a more positive development. Homeschooling has surged across the country due to COVID-19. Even though schools are reopening, many parents have decided to homeschool their children for a variety of reasons. Some want faith-based curriculum, while others believe their local schools have problems. The common denominator, the parents believed homeschooling worked out well, and they're keeping it for their children. Coming up, the Olympic Games underway in Tokyo this weekend, but human rights activists and government officials are looking ahead to the Winter Games coming up in 6 months in Beijing. And they're calling for the United States and other countries to boycott those games. We'll tell you why when we come back.
Want to be a part of a community that inspires your spiritual growth while winning prizes? The all-new CBN app. Connect with the community for prayer and encouragement. Track and set spiritual goals. Enjoy conversation starters with friends and family. And collect points to win prizes. The all-new CBN app. A great place to belong. Download the app at cbn.com/mobile. Grow, connect, have fun. The all-new CBN app.
On the home front.
Thanks for joining us for CBN's On the Home Front, where we highlight what the men and women of America's military do to defend our country. CBN honors the men and women in our military with an initiative called Helping the Home Front. It partners with churches across the country to meet the needs of their military families, from repairing homes to wiping out medical bills for wounded veterans.
Wednesday at 3 on the CBN News Channel.
Too often, we carry baggage from our past. You know what it's like. It affects everything and everyone in our lives. It's always there, weighing us down and keeping us from achieving true happiness. But do you know God never meant for us to be trapped in the past? You can be free of your baggage. Learn how God's forgiveness leads to changed lives and new beginnings. Call the 700 Club.
Watch breaking news, in-depth exclusive stories and programs from health to entertainment you won't find anywhere else. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Enjoy credible news reporting from around the world. Discover inspiring programs and stories of hope, all in one place from a Christian perspective. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. To watch the CBN News Channel, download the app or visit cbnnewschannel.com.
The United States is winning its share of gold medals in the Olympics as the world's most elite athletes compete in Tokyo. But many human rights activists are focused on the next games, which are set to take place in just 6 months, the 2022 Winter Olympics in Beijing. But China stands accused of crimes against humanity, including genocide. And as Caitlin Burke reports, there are calls for a boycott of the upcoming Beijing Games, and they are growing louder.
Before the 2008 Olympic Games, China pledged to improve its human rights record. But the Communist Party reversed course, intensifying repression.
They realized they had gotten everything that they wanted, which was the approval of other countries.
More than a decade later, the situation is so bad there that China expert and author Gordon Chang says it's hard to fully conceive.
China's crimes against humanity, including genocide, are comparable to what the Third Reich did prior to the mass exterminations that began in 1941. These are atrocities that the world has not seen for decades.
There's over 1 million Muslim Uyghurs in concentration camps as we speak. The women are partitioned off when they get there and forced into forced abortions, forced sterilization, mass rape campaigns. It's horrific and disgusting. Add that to what's happened in the complete erasure over years of the Tibetan Buddhist culture. The Chinese Communist Party is in an absolute war with any type of religious liberty.
Several lawmakers, including Representative Mike Waltz, have pushed the International Olympic Committee for years to move the upcoming games out of China. Seeing little to no progress, they're now calling for a boycott.
I just can't imagine seeing the American flag flying there, because essentially to President Xi, who's a dictator, it'll be the entire world shrugging their shoulders, turning a blind eye, and saying essentially, tacitly, all of that is okay.
Waltz points to the past when we should have boycotted a host country and didn't.
1936 in Germany. People forget that Russia invaded Crimea just months after the 2014 Sochi Games. We've seen time after time that dictatorships are emboldened when the world turns a blind eye.
At a recent event dubbed the Genocide Games Rally, speakers representing China's persecuted people groups criticized rewarding the communist regime for its atrocities.
During my stay in the concentration camp, I was beaten, injured, and tortured by unbelievable methods. Here, I would call all the governments and athletes and our organization to boycott 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics.
Chang says it's also important for athletes to truly understand what they risk by competing in China. From surveillance.
This is a state that is determined to learn everything about anyone who is on Chinese soil.
To actually having their DNA collected.
China has a relentlessly determined effort to take the DNA of foreigners. This is ominous. We know that the Chinese military is working on new pathogens. They call it a new type of biological warfare of, quote, specific ethnic genetic attacks. In other words, pathogens that will leave the Chinese immune but sicken everybody else.
As of now, the White House isn't supporting a boycott or responding to safety concerns regarding our athletes. In Europe, a diplomatic boycott is being considered, meaning world leaders wouldn't attend, although businesses and athletes would still participate. Caitlin Burke, CBN News.
Still ahead, it's been a tough few years for Christians in the Middle East with the pandemic and a war between Israel and Hamas. We're going to hear from one man who's gone through it with them. We've got that story for you coming up right after this.
Having sex before you marry is a bad idea.
Don't tell me there's no such thing as gun violence.
That just depends on your definition of when life begins.
Watch Dan and Dale tackle trending topics that test your faith on the next Faith Wire. Monday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel. The Global Lane takes you around the world, providing facts over fiction.
What might rising trade and geopolitical tensions mean for you on the home front?
With over 45 years of experience, award-winning journalist Gary Lane brings you the truth from a global angle.
What about the issue of immigration?
World news analysis you won't see anywhere else.
And it's all right here on the Global Lane.
Thursday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel. Your news channel, your shows, the stories you care about. Anytime you want, anywhere you want. Download the CBN News app today.
Christians in the Middle East have been through a lot over the last couple of years. Like much of the world, they endured the pandemic. On top of that, 4 elections in 2 years in Israel and a war. CBN's Wendy Griffith spoke with one man who's lived in the midst of it all, and he's telling the stories of faith in his new book, Dare to Believe.
Terry, tell us about your new book, Dare to Believe. Give us a quick version of one of the stories in your book.
Oh, gosh, so many. It's 3 stories in one, really. One is my own story of nearly 50 years living and working in the Middle East, in Lebanon, in Egypt, and other countries. It's also the story of a very courageous but unheard about church, and the stories of individuals that have given their lives for the sake of the gospel in these different countries. And I'm sure anybody reading it cannot but be totally inspired by these stories. And it's also the story of Sat7, the struggles of getting started and broadcasting just 2 hours a week to start with in 1996, and expanding to 4 full-time channels broadcasting in Arabic and Turkish and Farsi for Iran, and having a 24-hour kids channel broadcasting across the Middle East.
And Sat7 is still going strong, right?
Very strong, thank you, yes.
And where are you located?
Well, the headquarters is in Cyprus, but we have studios in Egypt, Turkey, Lebanon, London, where we do a lot of work for the Iranian channel, because we're not able at the moment, at least, to produce anything in country there, of course, in Iran.
Terry, tell us, what do you see God doing in the church in the Middle East?
Gosh, yeah, there's been so much change over the time I've lived here. You know, we had no internet, no cell phones, nothing when we started. And now we have all this amazing technology that we can communicate with people online and so on. But God is really moving in people's lives, especially in the very difficult places. Iran has perhaps the fastest growing church in the world today, with well over 1 million new believers that are basically meeting in homes. It's an underground church, because since 2011 there's not been any Farsi language churches permitted to meet. Only traditional Armenian churches and so on have been able to continue. Algeria is another amazing story of a fast-growing church in the face of many difficulties and challenges. But the book is full of really stories of courageous believers that have done so much to further the faith of Christ and bring an understanding of the Christian gospel to those around them.
It sounds fascinating. I can't wait to read it. What do you want believers, or what do you want people to take away from your book once they've read it?
I think most importantly to understand there is a Christian community in these countries, Turkey, Iran, the Arab world. Some of them date their churches right back to the apostles, and they've got 2,000 years of sometimes incredible witness and survived persecution under Rome, under Muslim invaders. And it's a story that people just aren't aware of. We think the church has been exterminated in the Middle East, but really it's alive and well, and carrying on that 2,000 years of Christian presence and witness.
It's amazing. Well, how can folks get a copy of Dare to Believe?
Well, it's available on Amazon as a Kindle or a softback or paperback version, or you can go to my own website for more information, and that's just terenceascott.com. That's TERENCEASCOTT.com.
Well, you've certainly seen a lot of change in the Middle East in your lifetime, and it's not over. Terry Ascott, author of Dare to Believe. Thanks for bringing us these powerful stories of what God is doing in the lives of Christians in the Middle East. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
Coming up, a hero's welcome for the members of the Miami-Dade Fire Rescue's Urban Search and Rescue Team, who spent a month combing through tons of rubble from that collapsed condominium building. We're going to have their story for you when we come back. Stay with us.
I am Region's first ROTC graduate student.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Wednesday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
How'd you like to get a redo on your health, on your body, on your arteries, so you could have the energy you had 20 years ago? The great news is you can. I'm Dr. Mike Roizen, chair of the Wellness Institute at the Cleveland Clinic. I've written 4 New York Times bestsellers. But even better than having to read all that, you can listen to this DVD and watch it. Protect your heart? Yes, you can. Here's how.
Go to CBN.com or call 1-800-700-7000 for your free copy of Protect Your Heart. Let the medical experts show you their new discoveries on how to avoid heart disease and even reverse it. Easy steps to uncover the hidden dangers in your medicine cabinet, reduce stress, and get a complete do-over for your health. Call 1-800-700-7000. That's 1-800-700-7000. Or go to CBN.com to claim your free copy of Protect Your Heart.
Introducing a brand new way to start your morning. Get your daily quick start from CBN News. A quick read on the important news of the day delivered right to your inbox. Stay current on breaking news, politics, and entertainment. Discover how God is moving around the world and here at home. Plus, get exclusive stories and daily scripture encouragement just for you. Stay informed. Go to quickstart.news and subscribe today.
I want to take you now to a hero's welcome this weekend for Miami-Dade Fire Rescue's Urban Search and Rescue Team, which ended its search for bodies Friday at the location of the condominium collapse in Florida. The mayor of Miami-Dade County saluted them in a special ceremony.
To each and every one of you, from the bottom of my heart, you have shown the world what superheroes look like.
That team spent a month painstakingly working to remove layers of dangerous debris, going through more than 14,000 tons of rubble. Right now, it is time for your Monday motivation, and today I leave you with this thought. Faith is more than a fleeting thought. It is a word of action. And today is a great day to act. Act on that faith. Act on what you hope for. Act on what you believe. And God will honor your actions just as He honors your faith. Well, that is going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. We thank you so much for watching. I want to remind you that you can always get more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel. You can find them there at any time, as well as online at cbnnews.com. We'd love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today or any day. You can email us, newswatch@cbn.com. The information's right there at the bottom of the screen. You can also reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We'll see you tomorrow.